Welcome to the final lesson in the memory section, Lesson 10, Improving the Accuracy of Eyewitness Testimony, including the use of the cognitive interview. My name is Nick Redshaw and I have over 16 years experience of teaching A-level psychology. I'm also co-author of the highly successful independent learner series of student workbooks available exclusively on Amazon. Improving the accuracy of eyewitness testimony, including the use of the cognitive interview. The cognitive interview technique was developed by Geiselman et al. In 1985 to improve the accuracy of eyewitness testimony. It is used by investigators to reveal details of an event that a witness has difficulty recalling when using a standard police interview technique. The four main techniques that the cognitive interview technique uses to aid retrieval are context reinstatement. The witness is asked to mentally reconstruct the physical, external and personal internal contexts which existed at the time of the crime. The interviewer can help witnesses recreate the context by asking them to form a mental image of the original scene. For example, the location, emotional reactions, smells, sounds and physical conditions. Report everything. The witness is asked to report everything, even if it seems irrelevant. This technique may yield information that may be valuable in putting together details from different witnesses to the same crime. Recall from a changed perspective. The witness is asked to recall from a changed perspective. For example, to place themselves in the shoes of the victim or of another witness and to report what they have seen from that viewpoint. Recall in reverse order. The witness is asked to recall information from different starting points, the end, the middle, or from the most memorable events, and work forward or backwards from this point. This reduces the effects of post-event discussion, as it is harder to produce inaccurate information when recalling it in reverse order. Geiselman et al. 1985's cognitive interview research. The aim: to investigate if the cognitive interview technique would be better than the standard police interview technique. Procedure: a lab experiment using an independent group design. All participants watched the same film of a violent crime scene. They were randomly allocated into two groups, cognitive interview and standard interview. 2 days later, the participants were asked to recall the details of the film. The accuracy of their recall and the number of errors was recorded. The results. The table indicates the mean number of items recalled in the cognitive interview and standard interview. Correct recall in the cognitive interview, 41.1. In the standard interview, 29.4. The number of errors in the cognitive and the standard interview were the same. If you are using one of our workbooks or your teacher has downloaded our workbook from TESS, complete the graph in your workbook. If not, complete it on a piece of graph paper that you've been provided with. You may want to pause the video at this point in order to complete the graph. Okay, welcome back. So, for 4 marks, you need an accurate sketch of a bar chart to represent the data in the table. You get 1 mark for an appropriate title, 1 mark for correctly labeling the axes, and 1 mark for correctly plotted bars. Your graph should look something like that. So graph 1, the bar chart, the mean number of items recalled in the cognitive interview and standard interviews. The mean number of items recalled in the cognitive interview and standard interviews. Recall of details from film, type of interview used. Okay, I'd now like to complete the conclusion. Briefly outline from the table and the graph. Briefly outline what the table and graph shows about the effectiveness of the cognitive interview technique in improving the accuracy of eyewitness testimony. Okay, the cognitive interview leads to better memory for events, with witnesses able to recall more relevant information, 41.1 mean number of items compared with the traditional interview method, 29.4 items. However, in both cases, the mean number of errors was the same. So next, I'd like you to identify the operationalized independent variable and dependent variable in this study for 2 marks. Again, if you'd like to pause the video. Okay, so hopefully you've said for the independent variable the type of interview, i.e. the participants either did the cognitive or the standard interview. And the dependent variable, the items correctly recalled from the film using the different types of interview, or the number of errors if you've said the number of errors. Okay, looking at the next question, 4 of the following statements are descriptions of different techniques used in the cognitive interview to improve eyewitness testimony. 1 is incorrect. In the table below, write down which description, A, B, C, D or E, matches each component part of the model. A. The witness is asked to report the incident from different viewpoints, for example from the point of the victim, not just their own. That is recall from a changed perspective. B. The witness is asked to mentally reconstruct the physical, external and personal internal context which exists at the time of the crime. That's context reinstatement. C. The witness is asked to silently repeat words that they have heard or seen. That is incorrect. That is from the working memory model. D. The witness is asked to report the incident in several different starting points, moving backwards and forwards in time. That's recall in reverse order. That's recall in reverse order. The witness is asked to include every detail they can recall, even if it seems trivial. That's report everything. On reviewing Geiselman's findings, Fisher et al. 1987 suggested adding some extra features during the interview to improve performance. These were minimizing distractions, actively listening to the witness, asking open-ended questions, and adapting the language to suit the age, academic ability, etc. of the witnesses, and avoiding judgmental comments. In a real-life cognitive interview, Fisher et al. 1989 trained American police officers in the use of the cognitive interview and compared their interview performance before and after training using the cognitive interview technique. Results showed a 47% improvement in the accuracy of recall compared to when they had been using the standard interview technique. Okay, your final question of this memory section. Milne and Bull, 2002, found that using a combination of report everything and context reinstatement produced better recall than any other conditions. Report everything triggers other memories in a process called spreading activation, i.e. one memory acts as a cue for another. Using your knowledge of explanations for forgetting, outline why context reinstatement improves recall. Refer to research in your answer. Note, this is only asking you for context reinstatement, not report everything and all that sort of stuff. Just context reinstatement for 5 marks. You may want to pause the video, and this should probably take you 6 or 7 minutes, and then return once you've completed. Okay, welcome back. So, in many cases, the information is stored in our memory. It is just that we cannot access it without the appropriate cues. With the appropriate cues, the information becomes available, and in terms of forgetting, an absence of appropriate cues will lead to retrieval failure. Tulving, 1983, was interested in retrieval failure and identified from the findings of research that in order for us to access information using appropriate cues, these have to be present at the time of encoding and subsequently at the time of retrieval. This is known as the encoding specificity principle. The cues can be external or internal and include the following types: context-dependent forgetting, external cues, and state-dependent forgetting, internal cues. Therefore, in relation to the cognitive interview, the technique context reinstatement attempts to reconstruct the physical, in brackets external, and personal, in brackets internal context, so fully embraces the encoding specificity principle and will lead to better recall. Research by Bauer, 1981, confirms that people tend to remember information better when there is a match between their mood at learning and their mood at retrieval. Okay, I mean, for 5 marks, I mean, a lengthy sort of answer, but quite nice, including sort of elements of research as per the question asked. So finally, overall, a meta-analysis carried out by Kohnken 1999 into the effectiveness of the cognitive and enhanced cognitive technique found that these techniques consistently improved the accuracy of eyewitness testimony, therefore providing strong support for the real-life practical benefits to the police of using the enhanced cognitive interview over the standard interview. So that brings us to the end of memory, and now you'll be moving on to attachment. Okay, so hopefully I'll see you in the next lesson.